Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to create a tray. We're going to do so using some gorgeous designs from Slide Hustle. Back about a month ago they sent me some fall designs and I completely flunked on making a tray with them. Just time got away from me and I had some issues with epoxy. So I am going to show you these beautiful fall ones, and then we will move on to Christmas. So this is the one that I was actually going to use. We have this one. Look at the detail and all of those vibrant colors. It's so beautiful. I love the blues. And that's a duplicate from the first one. So there are our fall designs. And now here's the Christmas. These are their super V splits. This will fit perfectly around a 32-ounce plump from TIPSY Magnolia with a couple coats of epoxy and glitter. So you see that they do overlap just a little bit, and you can put them on just like that. That's no problem at all. And they go just to the bottom. It is a perfect fit. But since it does overlap, there's plenty of room to put that epoxy and glitter underneath before you add on your decal, and then it will have just a little bit of an overlap after that, but it will be a really great fit. There's tons of options on their website for V-splits, even some that have multiple on one sheet. I highly encourage you to go check them out because it really does make our lives as tumbler makers so much easier. No measuring, no cutting, no ruining vinyl because you measured incorrectly or cut wrong. It's already done for us. So here is their Christmas designs, and before I get into them, let me warn you, you're going to want every single one of these, okay? So this is the one that we are using on the wood tray. And then we are also making another tray. I'm going to use the same intro for both tutorials. So we are making this tray with this one, I believe. Look at the detail in here. They are having a huge sale, like I said. I'm going to try to get these videos out before that sale starts. But I'll have all the sale details down below for you guys, even if, well, I was going to say even if it's after the sale, but that wouldn't help now, would it? If these are posted after the sale, then I will still have a 10% off discount code for y'all. All right, and there you have it. So, like I said, if you haven't checked out the Slide Hustle Etsy site, I strongly encourage you to do so, just because Dan and Susan are amazing people. Dan is the owner of the business, Susan is the designer, and when you have an in-house designer, you get these incredible pieces of art is what they are, and you can't find them anywhere else. These are already pre-cut for us, so you just remove that outer edge, trim off a little piece of that backing, and then use the hinge method to put it on whatever surface you want. You can put them on any size tray. These are, if I had my measuring tape, I would measure it for you, but I do not see it right now. I'm not certain, but this tray does not have a sticker on it. This one does. This is a 14-inch tray, and we have about 1.5 inches around the edges that we can add glitter or whatever we want, or not add glitter. So they're the perfect size to get really nice big image. My daughter's in here and she just handed me a measuring tape. Okay, so they are 10.5 approximately inches wide. Thanks, baby. So what we're gonna do is get this tray sanded. I did attempt to make that fall tray, like I said, and it didn't work out. So I did strip the glue that was off of here, but it's still a little tacky. I'm gonna take my palm sander and go over this really quick just to get that stickiness off of here. And then we were gonna add on our deer. Okay. Wipe this off and get it clean. Okay. I'm glad we did that because this tray was actually uneven. A couple uneven spots. And that was 220 grit sandpaper, by the way. Now, for this, I'm going to trim out around the circle just so I can see my edges and measure them out. Let me find my scissors. All right, got this cut out, and then I'm going to trim off a piece of this backing. I can get a hold of it now. Come on. Okay. Now we've got to line this up. Now that's pretty well centered with the top. Let's make sure it's the same distance all the way around. So I got this little thing to measure my cups for engraving, which I haven't figured out yet, but we're gonna use it to make sure that I have this centered. I got that pretty, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Grab our squeegee. Oh, that's so beautiful. Seriously, we don't need anything else. All this needs is a coat of epoxy. Oh, I love it. But we are going to add on a border. So I'm going to go ahead and get that cut. I'm going to take you over to Design Space to show you how I do that, and we'll be back.
We know that the max size that we can cut is 11.5 inches square if we're using a 12-inch square mat. This is for design space. I have no clue if you could cut up to 12 inches on silhouette, but if you can, let me know, because I really need another machine, and I don't know if I want to get a Cricut or a silhouette. Silhouette people, chime in. So after I create our 11.5-inch square, I'm going to resize my circle to 10.55. That is the exact dimension of our circle that we used on our tray. We're then going to duplicate that and resize the second circle to 10.3. This is going to give us a 0.25 offset once we slice this. So once we have it resized to 10.3, we're going to highlight both of these, center them using the align option at the top, and then hit the slice button. That's only going to leave us with a perfect offset that is going to go right along the outside of our vinyl and cover up the edges just a bit as well. Now, my original thought process was, let me change the color of this so I know what my main offset is going to be, and that can be centered up with my vinyl. Well, in the end, I really couldn't even see where my vinyl was to begin with underneath all of my offsets, so this really didn't matter, but I did change this to a different color, and then all of the duplicates after that, I changed it to a different color. That way I could see what my main offset was, and then all of the other rings that I put around it were just extras. Hopefully that's making some sense to you guys, and it did in my head once I started this, but then when I started to add it to the tray, it definitely did not help me any. So I just created this inside of our 11.5-inch square. That way I wouldn't go outside of the 11.5 inches and have to change anything. I just kept duplicating it until I was happy with how many little swirly circles I had to go around my image. I then got rid of our square, highlighted all of the offsets, or whatever you actually would call this, and I selected combine down there in the bottom right and weld to weld them all together as one image, and that's it.
Picking a vinyl for our offset was incredibly hard, but this is the one that I went with. Look at that match, man. Beautiful. I believe this is the bubble-free matte. Of course, we'll verify that and let you guys know. I really still can't see it all that well, but since we lined this up properly on the machine, it should be the same distance away from each edge, so that should help us line it up really good. That's what we're gonna bet on. Okay, and very carefully try to place this on here, and then before I do push this down, I'm going to measure to make sure it's the same distance from each side. Actually, before we add on the epoxy, I'm feeling like we need to remove this excess that's showing in between. Only in the areas where there's little pieces of it. So I'm going to come through here with my craft knife. We're going to take off these extra pieces. Okay, I'm leaving the ones that are completely covered up by the edge. Just taking the ones out that there were like little pieces of it in there. Okay, time for epoxy. So I've got about 60 milliliters of a little extra ink epoxy, and I have a feeling I probably should have mixed more than this. So we may end up doing 2 final coats instead of 1, but that's okay. This is the extra. They have turbo and extra fast setting epoxies. For our additive, we're going to use cashmere because it is a perfect match to our florals. This is from Charcuterie Creations. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And that was a lot. You don't need much, and that was quite a bit. Whoops. Let me put a lid on this. I feel like I should have mixed more than this, but so I'm going to go around our edges. Try to spread it out as best as we can. Oh my goodness. Put something in my epoxy. I'm putting epoxy everywhere but the edges, and then I will try to scrape off this epoxy from my glove, and then I'll get as close to those edges as possible, just by brushing my finger to the edge but not over it. Try to scrape that off so I don't make a mess. Okay, so I'm going to take my finger and just fan as close to the edge as I can. It kind of creates a bubble, like a droplet of water. If you go over the edge, your epoxy is going to go there too. But if you brush your finger around like this, and you create that little bit of a lip, most of the time, I'm not going to say every time, but most of the time, it will hold its shape and it will not go over that edge. If it does, all you have to do is sand. You can cut off excess by heating it up with a heat gun after your project has cured. You can cut it off with a craft knife. And then sand it smooth and just use some sort of a food safe wool. In those areas that you sand, or just, you know, treat the whole board. It's not the end of the world. Okay. I think I have got all areas covered, and it's crazy that 60 milliliters of epoxy covered this whole thing. I did not expect that. Looks like we got a pretty good coat on here, but I will be putting, that's just not very thick. So just for protection, I will do another coat of epoxy. Probably another 60 milliliters. All right. I just love the wood grain. Love it, love it, love it. It looks so good with the beer.
Here is how he turned out, guys. Look at how gorgeous that shine is. Look at that reflection. Oh my gosh. Makes me so happy. This turned out beautiful. Oh my gosh, the animals are wide awake this morning. This turned out so beautiful. The vinyl is just not something that I could ever take away from, so we had to do something really simple. Love the wood grain. I don't think I've ever left anything solid wood under epoxy, and I'm so glad that I did, because you can really look at how it brought out the grain in that wood. It's beautiful. This was very simple. We added on our vinyl, put a little bit of an offset border around it, and the mica in our epoxy was the final touch that we needed to bring it all together. It looks like a beautiful snowy deer portrait. You can add a bow to the top of this, use it as a door hanger, use it to serve cold foods. You cannot use this as a cutting tray. You don't want to cut into epoxy, and you don't want to use it for hot foods, but you can absolutely serve your cheeses and cool foods on top of this during the holidays, if you would want to put anything on top of this at all, because it's simply just a beautiful decoration. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below for me, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. All materials that I have used will be listed down below as well. Go grab you some of these beautiful pre-cut designs from Slide Hustle, and this one is actually going to be available in the Super V split as well. I told them we must have it. We must have it. All right, guys, that's all. We'll see you next time.